When it comes to meat processing, there's one name that many have counted on for decades. That name is Double D.
Double D was started in 1967 by my grandfather, Dutch Stogner, and his partner, Don Johnson. So the Dutch and the Don were the Double D. It started off as a custom processor for local farmers that had pigs or cows, or if they were lucky enough to shoot a deer back in the day. But they would process the meat for the farmers, primarily into hams, bacon, and they would make a little bit of sausage when they had the trim. And then the sausage became popular and took off, and people wanted more of it. When they started, the total number of employees was 3. It was my grandfather, my grandmother, and my dad. And not long after, my uncle joined. So then they had 4 employees, and slowly added over the years. As business picked up, they added people. And currently, we've got about 38, 40 employees on the payroll.
Double D still produces the original recipe for traditional country smoked sausage, but over the years, recipes have evolved to include other flavors.
The original sausage was a basic mild sausage, and over time, as customers asked for new flavors, we would work on that and develop it, and some of them were our own ideas. We came up with new flavors that we thought were good, and would try them out and show them to people, and they were good. And so people started asking for them more and more frequently. The meat business in general is always challenging because our business depends on a lot of people up the chain from us in terms of raw materials, and there are a lot of things that we don't have any control over. Commodity prices, the regulatory environment changed. It's been relatively steady for several years, but there was a stretch where the regulations were changing quite frequently, and so you have to deal with that, and your process has to change. Food safety has been a big concern for a lot of people, and so we have to stay modern with processes and techniques and some of the ingredients even that we use to make sure that we're keeping up with industry standards and federal standards to make sure the product's safe.
The growing popularity of hunting created a new market for the Stogner family to continue to offer quality processed meats.
If you look at the volume of game that we process today versus the mid-60s or early 70s, certainly the volume has increased because of management practices and popularity, and people have gotten smarter about how to raise and properly harvest animals. We hit a peak somewhere in the late 90s to early 2000s when the population was huge and hunters were taking a lot of animals. Katrina had a big impact. And it's odd because since Katrina, we've seen a fairly remarkable decrease. Now, it's been steady from year to year, but there was a sharp decrease in the number of animals taken right after Katrina, and don't know if it will ever rebound to what it was, in the late 90s and early 2000s.
And there's a message they share to anyone dropping off animals for processing.
Make sure it's clean. That's the biggest pet peeve. Number one, you don't want to be eating a lot of trash, and we don't want it in the building. And certainly other people that we process, they don't want their meat passing across tables or knives where that may be contaminated from dirty meat. And so we try to catch as much as we can at the back dock. When someone drops an animal off, we want it to be clean before it comes in the building. That's one of the biggest pet peeves that we have.
Nearly 20,000 pounds of smoked sausage and wild game are processed daily at Double D's facility. And with customers locally and as far away as California, it's easy to see why the Stogner family's small-town attitude has stayed true.
I'll often say it's a genetic defect because we're born into it, right? But we are. We were family-initiated, family-started, and we're still family-run. This is the 3rd generation to manage the day-to-day side of it. And the challenge is always with the 3rd generation. But as a child, certainly we were all expected to work in the family business, and we did. From the time that we were old enough to do it, we were here. Up until the time maybe we left town, left the nest, or in my case came back. It was always a family affair.